For 18 years, you've given me so much and you've taken so much away, and I thank you for both. And I'm truly in love with what I don't know. And I love this idea of the rooted grass, but I'm concerned about how to root it without being dogmatic.
Just root it in the quietest place in you.
That doesn't make sense somehow.
I know, because you got to do it.
It doesn't feel solid. It feels beautiful, it feels vast, but it doesn't feel like something I can root to.
Maybe you can expand your sense of what the word silence might be pointing towards. Because this whole display here is rooted in silence. You ever notice? As soon as something or someone stops clamoring, right, making noise, it's not like, we don't have to work for silence. You ever notice? Everything just falls into there constantly.
It took me 15 years to notice that.
Yeah. Like our words, right? They're just...
Yeah.
And of course, understandably, when I say silence, I don't even intend to have that understood in the only in the conventional way. That's the conventional understanding is sort of the beginning,
Okay.
It's something you sort of just start to notice. You play with it in a certain sense. You work with it a little bit, right? And I really mean that in a creative sense. Like even intention can be very powerful in this sense. Like I said, even to speak. Like, what would it be if I spoke from the quiet place in me? And, rationally your mind goes, I don't know how to do that. What could that even mean? But then, of course, we have the opportunity, like, to pause. And you realize this is an intuitive endeavor. This is an intuitive, connected endeavor. It's not like you know how. It's... And then the quiet spaces, and you might speak. And it doesn't mean your speaking itself is going to be quiet or any particular quality or anything. It doesn't, none of that.
That's a big shift it's a wonderful invitation. I visit the quiet and the gravity of life take me away from it.
Yeah.
Grounding myself in it feels next.
Yeah. Yeah, because then that can be something that can happen within movement, within everything. Like if you watch a great musician, let's say, a great musician, and sometimes they're playing something extraordinarily difficult. You ever notice that sometimes it looks almost effortless? You can just feel they're in this wonderful quiet place inside, and yet this extraordinarily difficult thing is happening, and they're even worse than that. They're on a stage where everybody's listening, and they'll know if they make the slightest mistake, right? And yet somehow they've perfected the ability to sort of drop that self-referencing tendency, right? Because that's what the quiet does for us. We have to let go a bit, right, of the self-referencing tendency. Oh.
I know many musicians, and I actually refer to that as them getting out of the way.
That's it.
And I have trouble staying out of the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
that you just pointed me right to it.
Yeah, it's the quiet element in anything, but it's not quiet for the sake of being quiet. You know, like I said, you can talk, you can act, you can do, you can, it's just where your being is issuing forth from, right? And there's nothing phony about this in the sense of I wouldn't suggest that someone they're trying to impose quiet upon themselves, because then it's kind of phony, right? It's you just start to notice, like, what's the default condition? Oh.
I refer to silence as something I've learned to allow to arise.
Yeah.
It's getting out of the way.
Yeah.
But I don't seem to stay out of the way.
Yeah, well, you can't control that.
Okay.
Maybe this, though, this is just an intuitive thing that I'm picking up might help.
Mm-hmm.
Silence of the heart. So, without even trying to know, like, how do I do any of this, just see what happens. Now, just have the intention to have in silence from, let's say, the head. There can be silence in the head, actually. And it's wonderful, and it's sky-like, and it's spacious, and it's quiet, and it's, you know, it's like awake, it's like vast space, sky. Ah, that's nice. Silence at the dimension of awakened mind. Down here, silence in the real ground of being. Just intuitively, it has a different quality. It's not like airy and floaty, and it almost has no spatial quality at all. There's something more rooted. It's like the silence of the ground. Right? And then here, the level of the heart. Oh, you see? There's intimacy there, isn't there? There's connection. Space like sky, awakened mind is like, whoa, I'm back here, man. And I may not be very connected with you because I'm way back witnessing everything. But here, the same thing drops in here, and it's like, oh. Because this is where we perceive unity from, really, right? But what's unity outside of the idea of unity? It's, as Dogen, great Zen master, noticed it, it's an absolute intimacy with the 10,000 things. That's more visceral, right? Mm-hmm. We can have intimate encounters when we're here. Mm-hmm. And so maybe that's the element that would be helpful too, a silence. And it's just an intuitive attuning almost. It's just silence from the heart around this area. Oh. Then it's connected. And when we feel connection, activity, if activity is needed, how we move and act and speak and all that, when you feel really connected, you don't have to ask those questions too much because they will flow out of your intimate connection. It's when we lose intimate connection. What do I do? What do I say? How do I do it? You know, and somebody can come in and go, do this and do this and do this. Or they can say, it's like, just lean a little far forward, lean into your heart a little bit. That place where you're just intimately connected, a little nervous, right? Because it's intimate. It's a little revealing. You get the difference? Mm-hmm. And it's you just, like I said, you play with it, you experiment with it, when it doesn't become just a formula, right? Then you can walk down the sidewalk, right? And you can, what would it be just to be in the silent intimacy of the heart right now, walking down the sidewalk?
It's a rooting in vulnerability that I love.
Yeah.
I jokingly tell people that the first 2 years I hung around you, I was looking for the chinks in your armor, and I finally realized you don't have any armor.
I may not have armor, but I'm sure I have chinks in my armor. Yeah. Just come live with me for a while. Take care of that, or I'll invite you to a poker game or something. You get the feeling, though?
A great invitation. Thank you.
I think that was the important part. We
Yes.
drop it in here. And that's so important. Now, I don't know the rest of the world much, but certainly in the West, not Western United States, Europe also, is having pure awareness experience at the level of heart is vital. Because in the West, like, we can get like on pure, spacious, sky-like awareness, and that's a freedom in and all of itself. Like, that's not to be missed. But there's something that after a while starts to feel like, oh, I'm so space-like and I'm so detached that what started out feeling so free and wonderful, at some point you often start to feel like, I'm starting to feel disconnected. That's like, this needs to drop down. And then it's like, oh, it's a different kind of, right? This is a connected spaciousness or connected, intimate. As you used a word I think that was important in there. I can't remember it. Something to do with insecure or unguarded. Vulnerable, thank you. Yeah, yeah. That's what the human heart has to be willing to do, to be vulnerable. Because that's when we feel the vulnerability, it's in the human heart. I think one of the things we're often not told, or it's not suggested to us, is in one speak, there's kind of two emotional, well, the spiritual one's not strictly speaking emotional, let's just say two heart centers. One is what we know of as the human heart, right? And it's with its vulnerability and connection and fear of connection and, you know, all the history that's built into the heart, you know, both good and not so good. And the fact that it wants to connect and it wants to be open and it wants to be intimate and it wants to be vulnerable, but it's sometimes a little afraid of that. But that human heart, it needs, when it gets connected with the spiritual heart, because the spiritual heart is the part of you that it's invulnerable. As human beings, we've been hurt and we've been disappointed and a million other things, right? But touching upon the spiritual heart, it's that which has never been harmed. Not as a place to hide in, right, from life, but as a place where, like, the human heart can get connected and go, oh, it's got connected to a domain of being that's never been harmed. Because the human heart needs to find its place of safety. So it feels like it can be open and vulnerable. If it thinks it's the only heart in town, well, sometimes it's going to be open and vulnerable, and sometimes it's going to be scared or angry or concealed or whatever. But as it starts to feel that there is this sort of, I'm calling it the spiritual heart, this bigger sense of connectionness, where, gosh, with all my disappointments and who knows, maybe in violations or whatever, there's a dimension of a heart that is invulnerable. And these two, the human and they need to be connected. They need to be communicating.
The soil, yes. That's the soil for the root.
That's the soil.
Yeah.
Yep.
Beautiful. I never would have come to that place as a root without that. So thank you. Wow. Thanks, Adya.
You're welcome, my friend.
Good to see you.
Good to chat with you.